I didn't hear the wheezing at first. I only heard my son's soft footsteps coming down the hallway, dragging his blanket behind him the way he always did when he was scared of the dark. But when he reached my room and tried to whisper, "Mom, I can't," the sound that came out of his mouth wasn't a whisper at all. It was that thin, high-pitched gasp that slices straight through a mother's chest. I shot out of bed so fast I tripped over my own shoes. I grabbed his shoulders, feeling the tremble in his arms. "Evan, honey, look at me. Breathe slow. Breathe slow." His small chest, too small for a 7-year-old, was rising so violently I could see each rib pushing against his skin. I reached for the window next to my bed to get him fresh air, the first instinct I'd had since he was diagnosed with asthma at 5. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I barely touched the window latch when the hallway light snapped on. My mom's voice sliced through the house. "What are you doing now?" Her tone had that same disgust she used on me when I spilled juice as a kid, or forgot to iron my sister's clothes for school. My dad stomped behind her, half asleep and fully angry. "You're waking the whole house for what? Your dramatic little boy again?" I held Evan tighter. "He can't breathe. Mom, the window. Just open it a little. Please." My mom marched straight toward us, yanked the window shut, and clicked the lock like she was locking a cage. "No, you're not starting this nonsense at midnight. He does this every time you give him attention. Let him fight for air. It'll teach you not to annoy us again." Evan's fingers clutched my shirt like he was holding on to life itself. I said their names, calm, trembling. "Mom, Dad, stop. He has asthma. He needs air. We need to go to the ER. My dad barked out a laugh. "ER? For what? A little breathing problem? When I was his age, my father would have smacked me for acting weak." My mom pointed at my son, my trembling, gasping little boy. "He's manipulating you. You raised him soft because you're soft. That's not our problem." Evan's breaths were going faster. He was sweating. His lips were tinting. I felt a panic rise inside me like boiling water. I reached for the window again. My mother slapped my hand away. Not playful, not warning, hard. "Don't touch that window again. He needs to learn." I looked at them with something I'd never felt before. Not fear, not hurt, not even anger. Something colder, something that whispered, "You're done begging." I carried Evan toward the front door, but my dad moved to block me. His huge body filled the doorway. "You are not waking up this neighborhood over your kid's act. Put him down and let him breathe it out." "He can't breathe it out," I said through clenched teeth. My dad leaned his head down, his breath hot on my face. "You're in my house, my rules, and rule 1 is stop being dramatic." Evan's knees buckled in my arms. I pushed past my dad so hard his shoulder slammed the wall. He cursed at me, yelling something about respect and daughters being ungrateful. I didn't hear all of it. I only heard Evan gasping like a fish pulled from the water. I ran down the porch steps barefoot. The concrete was freezing. My son's fingers were slipping from my shoulder. I strapped him into the car with shaking hands, fumbling with the seatbelt while praying out loud. "Stay with me, baby. Stay with me." My parents followed us outside, wearing disappointment like a badge. "You're embarrassing yourself," my mom said. "You're embarrassing OS," my dad added. I ignored them and turned the ignition. The engine coughed once, then twice, then finally started. My mother stood on the porch, crossing her arms, shouting after me like she wanted the entire neighborhood awake. "Don't come back when they send you a bill. We won't pay a dime." My father added, "Next time, control your boy instead of making him sick for attention." Those were the last words I heard before I drove into the night with my gasping son. At the hospital, the nurse didn't waste a single second. She took one look at Evan's chest and yelled for respiratory. A doctor rushed over and clipped an oxygen mask onto his face. My knees nearly buckled with relief and terror at the same time. The doctor turned to me, eyes narrowing. "When did this start?" 20 minutes ago, I whispered. "And you didn't give him fresh air?" he said sharply. "That can be dangerous during an attack." My throat closed up. I tried. My parents, they locked the window. The doctor froze. That expression, pain mixed with disbelief, settled on his face. He didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. I knew what he thought. And for the first time in my life, I agreed with someone looking at me with disappointment. When Evan stabilized enough to sleep, I sat beside him in the hospital chair. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The nurse refilled his humidifier. The doctor typed something about severe acute asthma flare, and I stared at the wall thinking, they locked the window. They locked the air he needed. My mom's words repeated in my head. Let him fight for air. It'll teach you not to annoy us again. Something inside me cracked so deep it didn't echo, it just broke clean apart. By the time morning sunlight crept through the blinds, I wasn't the same woman who ran barefoot across the porch. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't begging anymore. I wasn't trying to be the daughter they wanted. I was planning. Not poetic, not symbolic, not silent. Real revenge. Personal, direct, targeted. Something they weren't ready for. Something they would regret for the rest of their lives. When Evan finally woke up the next afternoon, his breathing steady under the oxygen mask, he whispered, "Mom, did I do something wrong?" That question hit me harder than any insult my parents had ever thrown at me. "No, baby," I whispered, brushing his hair back. "You didn't do anything wrong." "They did." While he rested, I stepped into the hallway and made a single phone call, one I'd avoided making for years. My old supervisor from the clinic, Dana, picked up on the second ring. "Hey, are you still looking for overnight staff?" I asked. She exhaled in surprise. "You're kidding. You want to come back? We'd take you tonight." I filled out paperwork before I even left the hospital. The security guard printed my new badge while Evan ate pudding, still too weak to hold the spoon steadily. That night, instead of driving back to my parents' house, I drove to a motel. Small, old, but safe. Evan curled up beside me, whispering, "Are we going home?" "No," I said. "We're going somewhere better." The next morning, my phone started exploding with messages. "Mom, where are you? Stop being dramatic and bring that boy back." "Dad, you left a mess in the kitchen. Come clean it." "Sister, Mom said you abandoned us. I need a babysitter today. Hurry." I read every message with an expressionless face. They didn't know what was coming. It started with the hospital calling them because I asked them to. Next of kin was still listed as my parents, and the nurse needed to confirm insurance info. My parents showed up furious, assuming Evan was faking again. But when the doctor brought out the chart, their expressions changed. He didn't sugarcoat it. "Your grandson was in respiratory distress. If he had been denied fresh air any longer, it could have been fatal." The room fell silent. My mom opened her mouth, then closed it. My dad's face turned pale, and I stood behind them, arms crossed, letting the doctor's words slice straight into their pride. They tried to speak to me afterward, something weak, something forced, something like an apology squeezed through gritted teeth. I didn't respond. I simply walked past them like ghosts. From that moment, the shift began. Every boundary they'd ever crossed, every insult they'd ever thrown, every time they made me feel small, I started gathering evidence, dates, screenshots, witnesses, even old videos from when I was a kid, things they forgot existed. I wasn't planning to post anything online. I wasn't planning to humiliate them publicly. No, my revenge was going to be direct, unavoidable, and aimed exactly where it would hurt them, not me. And because they were clueless, they kept acting like they still owned me. They didn't know I had quietly found a tiny apartment near my new job. They didn't know the hospital social worker helped me file for legal protections. They didn't know I was preparing something that would leave them isolated and powerless in the one place they worshipped, their community. They only realized something was wrong when I didn't show up at their house after 3 days. My mom called nonstop. My dad sent angry voice notes. My sister accused me of ruining the family. They still thought they controlled the narrative. They were wrong. My revenge was already in motion, and it was going to hurt them exactly as deeply and painfully as they tried to hurt my son. The day everything snapped into place was a quiet Sunday morning, church day. The one place my parents strutted like royalty. The one place they bragged about being pillars of the community. The one place they pretended to be loving, selfless, and generous parents who raised strong, respectful daughters. Their throne. Perfect. I didn't go inside right away. I waited until the service ended and the crowd spilled out, chatting in little clusters on the lawn. My parents stood near the steps, my mother laughing loudly, my father shaking hands like a politician. They didn't notice me at first, but the pastor did, and he walked straight toward me. "Are you the one who requested to speak today?" he asked gently. "Yes," I said. He nodded toward the microphone that stood on a small platform outside. "We're ready when you are." My parents' faces dropped so fast it was almost comical. My mother mouthed, "Don't you dare." My father shook his head slowly, face turning red. "What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I walked past them, up the small steps, and stood at the microphone. The murmur of voices died instantly. Evan stood beside me, still bandaged from his IV. He looked nervous but brave in a way he'd never been allowed to be. I took a breath and spoke clearly, loud enough for the whole congregation. "Last week, my son had an asthma attack at night. He couldn't breathe. He begged for help. And my parents, standing right over there, locked the window and told him to fight for air. They blocked the door. They told me I was dramatic. They told me he was manipulating me. If I hadn't forced my way out of that house, my son would have died." Gasps shot through the crowd like a wave. My mother stepped forward, shaking her head violently. "She's making this up. She's always been emotional. Everyone knows." I raised my hand and she froze when she saw what was in it. The hospital report, stamped, signed, with a doctor's statement about denial of life-saving ventilation. I continued. "My parents called my son weak. They called him dramatic. They said children don't deserve accommodations. They said suffering builds character. But it doesn't. It kills." Several churchwomen looked horrified. One older woman pressed a hand to her chest and whispered, "Oh my God." My father tried to step onto the platform, but one of the deacons blocked him. "Let her speak." And I did. I spoke about every time they'd belittled me growing up, every time they favored my sister while calling me a burden, every time they used me for labor, money, babysitting, or convenience, every time they ignored my son's medical needs. And for once, just once, no one was there to interrupt me. My parents kept trying to talk over me, but the crowd wasn't listening to them anymore. People who'd worshipped them for years were turning away. The pastor finally approached the microphone. "For the protection of this child," he said, looking at Evan, "and for the safety of this family, I cannot allow these individuals to serve in leadership roles here until this matter is addressed." My mother's jaw dropped. My father's hands clenched into fists. They had just been publicly stripped of the one place they held power, the one place they felt admired, the one community that kept their ego fed. It hit them harder than any punishment I could have imagined. And then came the final twist. I stepped aside and let Evan speak. Not long, not rehearsed, just a few trembling words. I couldn't breathe, and they didn't help me. Silence. Sharp. Absolute. My parents looked like they had been punched. People were staring at them like strangers. Whispers spread through the crowd. A few mothers pulled their kids closer. Reputation? Ruined. Respect? Gone. Community image? Shattered beyond repair. I wasn't done. I walked straight up to my parents, looked them both in the eyes, and said quietly, but loud enough for everyone to hear, "You locked the window on my child. I'm locking the door on you, permanently." Then I left with my son. No dramatic music. No applause. Just the sound of two people finally understanding what it felt like to be powerless, ignored, and unwanted. By the time I reached the parking lot, my phone buzzed with messages from half the congregation, people offering support, a spare room, meals, rides, help with Evan. Real kindness, real community. The one thing my parents never gave me. That day, they didn't just lose me. They lost the only world they ever valued, the world they thought they controlled. And the best part? I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to post anything. I didn't need to humiliate them online. I simply told the truth in the one place where lies used to protect them. That was enough. They taught my son what fear felt like. I taught them what consequences felt like. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video?